At some point in the healing process, and this is different for everyone, a question starts to surface. What about love? What about opening up again? Maybe it is just a quiet ache at the end of a long day in a house that feels too still. And beneath it, a pull that you haven't quite let yourself acknowledge. I miss having a partner. I think I want that again. And almost immediately, right behind that thought comes fear. That tension, wanting connection and being terrified of it at the same time. And that is what we are talking about today. Because for women who have been through a betrayal, the thought of opening up your heart again isn't just exciting. It carries a very specific kind of fear, and that fear deserves a real, honest conversation. Hi, I'm Eija. I'm a coach who helps women over 50 find their footing after betrayal. And this is exactly the kind of conversations I have with my clients. Part 1. The rush to get back out there. Let me start with something I think needs to be said directly. We live in a culture that is deeply uncomfortable with the woman taking time after relationship ends. The pressure comes from everywhere, friends, family, sometimes even well-meaning strangers. How long has it been? You should get back out there. Have you tried the apps? It will help you move on. I understand that people saying it want to see you happy and they want to see you thriving. But here's what I've come to believe. Rushing back into dating before you have genuinely healed doesn't move you forward. It just moves the wound somewhere new. Because if you haven't done the inner work, the self-forgiveness, the self-acceptance, rebuilding your self-trust, then you bring all of that into your next relationship. You are anxious, so you misread people. You are scared of getting hurt, so you either close yourself off completely or you overlook things that you shouldn't. You are searching for someone to fill the space that only you can fill. And dating from that place, from fear, from pain, from that wound, tends to create exactly what you are afraid of. I know this because I've lived through it too. It took me over a year and a half of actively working on myself before I was ready to date again. And even then, it was with encouragement from my therapist. Not because there is a magic timeline, but because I was ready to feel curious about dating again. If you're somewhere in this journey and want to talk through where you are, there's a link below to book a free call with me. Just a conversation, no pressure. Part 2. Sophia and the fear beneath the fear. You might remember Sophia from my last video, the friend who was married to a man with narcissistic traits, who gave everything and slowly lost herself in it. When we last left her, she was doing the work, finding her way back. But when I spoke to her recently, a new fear has surfaced. She said, Eija, I think I'm ready to meet someone. I actually miss having a partner, but I'm terrified. What if another narcissistic finds me? What if I'm somehow attracting these kind of men? And I want to sit with that for a moment, because I think so many women feel exactly this. The fear makes complete sense. It is a natural result of having your trust broken by someone who should have been safe. Of course you're scared. Of course you wonder if it will happen again. But here's what I told Sophia. The way you protect yourself from repeating the past is not becoming more guarded or learning to spot new red flags faster or approaching every new person with suspicion. The way you protect yourself is by knowing yourself so well, so clearly, so deeply, that you can feel the difference between what is good for you and what isn't, early before you are too invested. And that kind of knowing, it doesn't come from studying other people. It comes from having done the work yourself, which is exactly why healing has to come first. Part 3, dating from fear versus dating from openness. There are really two kinds of ways you can enter the world of dating after a painful relationship. The first is from fear. You are dating because you are afraid of being alone, or because you feel pressure to start dating, or you're hoping that someone new will quiet the doubt that is still living inside you. On the surface, it looks like moving on, but underneath the wound is still running the show. The second is from openness, from a place where you know who you are, where you have done enough healing that you are genuinely curious about people rather than anxious about them, where you are not looking for someone to save you or complete you, but to share your life with your own terms. The energy of those two starting points is completely different, and it tends to draw completely different people. I'm not saying you need to be perfectly healed, but there is a difference between carrying a scar and still being wounded. And here's something I think is actually really valuable. Testing the waters is totally okay. Going on few dates even before you fully feel ready can be a wonderful way to learn about yourself. If you're willing to pay attention, notice how you feel. Are you anxious before the date? Or are you overly excited? Maybe you're already putting someone on a pedestal before you even really know them. Do you find yourself shrinking or performing or trying too hard to be liked? These are not failures. They are information. Dating, when you approach it with that kind of honest self-awareness, becomes less about finding the right person and more about understanding yourself better. And when you can see your own patterns clearly, the ones that aren't serving you, you have power to change them. So ask yourself honestly, where am I right now? Not where you think you should be, where you actually are. Part 4. I'm happier alone. Let's talk about that. Now, here's something I want to come with love, because I hear this so often, and I think it deserves a real honest conversation. After a painful relationship, many women say, I don't need a man. I'm happier alone. I decided relationships just aren't for me. And I want to be very clear about something. For some women, this is 100% true. Some people are genuinely happier outside of a romantic relationship, and that is completely valid and beautiful choice, and I fully respect that. But, and I say this with love, because I care, sometimes that statement isn't really a choice. Sometimes it is protection. And the thing we are protecting ourselves from is very simple: to getting hurt again. Think of it like closing shutters on your house before the storm. In the moment, it makes complete sense. You're keeping the damage out, protecting what's left inside. And the storm was real. The damage was real. And of course you close the shutters. But if the storm has long passed and the shutters are still closed, at some point you have to ask yourself, am I still keeping the bad weather out? Or have I just forgotten that I'm also keeping the light out? That is what it can look like when I don't want a relationship is really a fear talking. The shutters feel like safety, but inside it's getting darker and darker, and you have stopped noticing. So here's the question, and I want you to sit with it honestly. Is this a choice I'm making from a place of genuinely knowing myself? Or are my shutters still closed because I'm afraid of another storm? Both are understandable, but only one is truly free. And you deserve to know which one is yours. Part 5. How do you know when you're ready? So, if not from fear, then from what? So, how do you know when you're genuinely there? I don't think readiness looks same for everyone, but there's some things I've noticed in myself and in the woman I talk to. You feel whole on your own, not perfect, not finished, but whole. You are not looking for someone to fill the gap. You're looking for someone to add to your life that is already yours. You can think of your past without it consuming you. It happened, you learned, you grew. It doesn't define every thought you have about the future. And you feel genuinely curious about people again. Not anxious, not suspicious, curious. Open to the possibility that there are good, kind, emotionally healthy people out there, because there are. And perhaps the most importantly, you feel like yourself again. Not who you were before. That person is gone, and that is okay, but the version of you who came through it and who knows herself so well, better than she ever did. That is the person who is ready to date. Not because she's fearless, but because she's grounded enough that fear doesn't get to make the decisions. And when you do step back in, go slowly. You're allowed to. Take your time, let things unfold. You don't have to decide on the third date whether someone is safe. But approach it with openness, with presence, with the quiet confidence of someone who knows what she deserves. Not every person who shows interest is out to hurt you. Not every kind man is hiding something. Your past does not have to be your future. Sophia is still on this journey, still healing, still finding her feet. But she's asking better questions now. Not what if it happened again, but who am I and what do I actually want? That shift is everything. If this video resonated with you, please share with someone who might need it. And I would love to hear from you in the comments. Are you in the healing space or thinking about dating? Or somewhere in between? Let's talk. And if you haven't seen the video before this, I'll link it below, where we go deep into self-forgiveness and rebuilding your self-trust from the ground up. See you in the next one. Love and light. Bye.